That does not mean I will not recognize my special guest of honor, who was my governor in Lagos. We brought you to Abuja. When we brought him to Abuja, he was a young man with black hair. Now what you are giving us after this tenure, I think, is somebody with white hair. All protocols duly observed. I am delighted to attend this occasion, being the 15th distinguished lecture of the Electrical and Electronics Engineers Annual Lecture Series, DEAL, of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, NIEE. I congratulate the chairman and members of his cabinet. Even though I'm not an electrical engineer, I know that NIEE, being the first division of the society to be inaugurated in 1980, has continued to remain vibrant in the NSC fold through its enriching professional development programs and activities, one of which we are all witnessing today. And the challenge for Nigeria has been to keep pace with other nations and compete effectively for a share in the foreign direct capital growth in our economy and infrastructure. One factor that has militated against foreign direct investment is high level of insecurity prevailing in some parts of the country, another factor also. Therefore, this topic today, electrifying Nigeria, sine qua non to building a great industrial and safe nation, is very apt and timely. At this juncture, I want to congratulate my brother, a very strong man, very unassuming, Engineer Ifeoluwa Oedele, FNSC, for the honor bestowed on you by your professional colleagues to lead this lecture series today. I say congratulations. I say congratulations twice because I was made to understand you are going to be a fellow of NIEE. Double congratulations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam, one congratulations goes to you because you kept the house safe. That's why Ifeoluwa is doing what he's doing. Assuming the house is turbulent, I will not have him today. Thank you, madam, for doing what you are doing. Please do more. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you of our AGM that is coming up 10th, 6 to 10 December in Abuja and in the National Conference Center. And the topic is expansion the energy mix.
Communication, Mr. Emmanuel Ojo. Mr. Emmanuel Ojo is in charge of communication, head of communication. Thank you. Then the head of information. Problem. Thank you very much.
I know that we can do better with that round of applause. Permit me very quickly as we move on because of time to recognize the presence of His Excellency Comrade Adams Aliyu Oshomole, the immediate past governor of Edo State. As we also recognize the presence of Senator Barrister Babajide Omoworare, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on National Assembly Senate Liaison. Please let's welcome him with a resounding applause. Thank you for coming, sir. We also recognize the presence of a Chairman House Committee on Road Safety, Right Honorable Akinfolari Mayowa Samuel, representing Ile Oluji, Okeibo, and Odibo in Ondo State. Please welcome him with a resounding applause. Thank you so very much for coming. We'll keep the recognitions at bay because of time, and at this point in time, we just want to quickly recognize Right Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, Chairman Sunrook Engineering Services Limited. Let's welcome him, please. Professor Mohammed Ajia, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers and fellow IEEE, President, Chief Executive Officer, Digital Bridge Institute, an institution of National Communications Commission, the man who discovered optical fiber networks and was recognized by President Barack Obama of the United States of America, is here with us. Welcome for him. Please just wave at us, wave at us. That recognition is super for a Nigerian. Dr. Chris Imoka, MD, CEO, Chris Ejik Limited, we welcome you. Having done this, Your Excellency, our special guest of honor, permit me to stand on the already established protocol as we move in to taking the citation of our distinguished guest lecturer. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guest lecturer does not need any introduction. Please let's join me in welcoming distinguished guest lecturer, Engineer Ifeoluwa Oyedele, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, to be upstanding for the citation. He will come up to the stage and stand here for the citation. If you're ready with it, please, as he steps up to the stage, let's have the citation.
Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, for his outstanding contributions to the engineering profession, exemplary leadership quality, and outstanding services to the nation. Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele, FNSE, FRMN, FNIPE, FNISE, and FIPAN, was born on 8th October 1958 to the family of late Chief Matthew Olakunle Oyedele, member of the British Empire, a renowned educationist, famous disciplinarian, public servant, community leader, and elder statesman, and Mrs. Comfort Ileola Oyedele, a retired school teacher. Oyedele proclaims that one of the most important milestones that shaped his life was his admission into the Government College, Ibadan, in 1971. This marked the beginning of the love story between Ife and GCI. Many of his mates and seniors in Swanston House would tell you how even at such an impressionable age, Ifeoluwa distinguished himself as a disciplined, hardworking, and highly principled young leader. Oyedele is a keen sportsman who played football, hockey, and cricket whilst in school. He was an athlete of note, and his name dotted the honors board in Swanston's House of Government College, Ibadan, where he won many laurels. Ife, a thorough gentleman, won many awards in GCI for excellent performance both in academics and for the display of exemplary character. These prizes include Best Behaved from One Boy in Swanston House, all-round contribution on the house grounds academic, sports, and character. He was a store boy for a full academic year in Form 4. In his final year in GCI, he was named the Housemaster's Secretary and sole confiscator for Swanston House, a highly respected and coveted prefectship position those days. Little wonder that in his testimonial, the principal described Oyedele as responsive and highly responsible. On his special qualities, the school stated that he is a highly dependable man. Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele graduated from the prestigious University of Lagos, Akoka Yaba, Lagos, in July 1982 after a brief stint in the Polytechnic Ibadan and the University of Ile-Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. He was very active in politics. Attended in Unilag, he was the governor of the Secretary General and later president of the University of Lagos Engineering Society. Ife was Speaker of the Students' Representative Council, SRC, at various times before graduation. Oyedele started his engineering pupillage with Dafe Consultants Ibadan, where he was involved in design and supervision and monitoring of projects, electrification. It was his daring contribution to ensuring that the general election of 1983 was free and fair that got him noticed by late Professor Olu Liyun, who was the personal physician to the then governor of Old Oyo State, then comprising the present-day Oyo and Osun states, Chief Bola Ige. For his exploits, the governor ordered that he be offered immediate employment in the Oyo State Ministry of Works and Transport. He was later transferred to the office of the Military Governor Office.
Good businessman, and I have not related much with him since he joined politics. But I still see him as being a friend and a very loyal friend for that matter. I cherish my relationship with him and his family. The same thing I believe he cherishes his relationship with my family. I can only say that Ife is always there for you at any time. And is ready to work, ready to move, ready to contribute his own to the progress of this country. Thank you very much.
My name is Umaru Tanko Al-Makuba. I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Nasarawa South of Nasarawa State. And before now, I was the governor of Nasarawa State and on the platform of CPC and APC in 2011.
Because when you have children who are behaving like you remember the first time they called some people, these disciples of Christ, Christians, because they were doing exactly what Jesus was doing. People saw them. My daughter, the bold and the beautiful, that name has stuck with you. General Counsel of B. Brown Incorporated, Motolani Oyedele. I use the two of you as points of contact to all of your siblings at home and abroad. I would like to single out Mr. Simon Ani, my friend, members of the NDPHC here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. If I have left out anybody, I will remember as we go on. We are all gathered here today only by the grace of the Almighty God, who graciously preserved our lives to survive the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has continued to ravage all nations in the last 24 months. I am particularly a child of grace. I almost broke down when I heard all the things that were being said about me, and I thought, is this me? Only God deserves all the glory for the gift of life. The virus, which crept into our world like a thief in the night, has taught us a bitter lesson on the futility of unbridled acquisition just for its sake. The disease has so far recorded about 245 million cases as at the time I was writing this lecture, and 5 million deaths. May I, with due respect, use this occasion to commiserate with those who have lost loved ones, friends, and colleagues to this dreaded virus. I'm sure that almost all of us have been touched one way or the other. May their souls rest in perfect peace. It is indeed an honor and a privilege, a great privilege, to stand before you to deliver the 15th Distinguished Electrical and Electronics Engineer Annual Lecture Deal. I'm told that only a select few have been fortunate to make the list of distinguished lecturers. In truth, I do not know the criteria the Governing Council of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, NIEEE, adopt in its selection process, but the high caliber of professionals in the exclusive list of past lecturers is quite intimidating. It may interest this Honorable Assembly to know that the list consists of 2 past presidents of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and 4 of my former lecturers, Professor C.O.A. Awoshope, Dr. Olusegun Ajayi, Professor Olumide Ajose, and Dr. Ayodele Eson, who is here. The list also includes 2 of my senior brothers from different parents, Engineer Ibikunle Ogunbayo and Engineer Folúṣèké Shomolu, now of blessed memory. And last but not the least, my valued friend and brother, Engineer John Ayodele. We call ourselves our mistakes because people refer to me as Engineer Oyedele, and they refer to him as Engineer Oyedele. Most of these gentlemen have at one point in my life been my professional mentor. I strongly suspect that my name may have come up only by reason of my association with these eminent personalities. Notwithstanding the way my name got on the list, let me sincerely express my gratitude for this rare honor. I do not take it for granted, and sincerely hope that the quality of this lecture will justify the confidence this noble institute has reposed in me. When I was given the privilege of nominating the special guest of honor, I thought deeply, and then I placed a call to the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, intending only to find a convenient time to meet with him to discuss the matter. To my utmost surprise, when he asked for a hint on the subject and I told him, without hesitation, he accepted to be the special guest of honor unconditionally for this event. Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN, CON, my brother and my friend, thank you for who you are and for always treating me with honor and respect. You know, I read something some time ago about a man who went to a Catholic church. Those of you who are Catholic or who know their tradition will know that you have this confession. They go and make confession to a priest. And this priest came to this parish for the first time, and a young man went there. And he was confessing to him how he had stolen a TV set and lied his way out when questioned by police. He had stolen money from his parents, embezzled from his employer, had an affair with his boss's wife, and with his boss's daughter. He had taken illegal drugs, and he had done unprintable things. And then he left. And on the following Sunday, the parish pastor came to the church and narrated his experience and said, look, that he didn't know that, that he had the impression that he was coming to a den of dangerous people, but that when he eventually met the congregants, he knew that there were better people. And then this big politician came into the church late, as usual, and he was called upon to make a speech, and he said he had the privilege, he revealed that he had the privilege to be the first person to go and make a confession to the priest. So of course, everybody knew that he was the man who had stolen a TV set, who had done all those despicable things. So I want to thank all of you who are here very early today, that even if we had said something nasty, it is not you. I'm sure that it is not any one of you. Thank you very much for coming early. Let me go straight to the reason why we are gathered here today. NIE's letter informing me of my nomination to deliver the 15th deal specifically gave me the liberty to, and I quote, deliver a lecture with a title of your choice that reflects your area of specialization and showcases your vast experience in solving peculiar problems facing the society. It was therefore easy for me to narrow my search on the subject to sustainable power for Nigeria, which, until recent times, is undoubtedly the greatest problem that has militated against the socio-economic development of our nation. Despite a myriad of academic and professional papers written on this subject, as well as huge investment in the sector, Nigeria is yet to achieve desirable results. Since this paper is only intended to showcase my experience, you will forgive me for whatever may be its shortcomings, because, as you know, as all human beings, my horizon is limited. I am, however, convinced that this paper, which I have titled Electrification of Nigeria, is a sine qua non to building a great industrialized and safe nation, will to a large extent contribute to finding the solution to this scourge. I urge you, therefore, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, please sit, relax, and enjoy the journey with me. The introduction, I would like to go into the history of power development in Nigeria. The introduction of electricity in Nigeria was first broached in the year 1891 when Governor Denton wrote to the Secretary of State for the Colonies to request for funds for street lighting. He justified the cost on social good. And then, I'm not sure anything happened then. In 1893, the succeeding governor, Governor Carter, following a representation by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, then an all-white body, wrote another letter to the Secretary of State for Colonies again. He noted that street lighting in Lagos was most defective. He did not think the people would be willing to pay municipal tax to fund the provision of street lights, as they were so fearful of tax. I think today Nigerians are still very fearful of tax. The prayer was answered in 1896, just 14 years after Great Britain had electricity, when electricity was introduced into Nigeria with the installation of a 60-kilowatt generator, which was wired to 120 street lights, the government house, the hospital, and two strategically important buildings. The annual cost of operating the electricity amounted to £2,000 at the time. This included salaries and for the British staff and the cost of coal. Thereafter, in 1923, a Ijora power station with 20 megawatts capacity derived from the steam turbine and coal-fired boilers was commissioned between 1928 and 1939. Native authorities developed standalone power generation at Port Harcourt, Kaduna, Enugu, Maiduguri, Yola, Zaria, Warri, Calabar. In 1929 again, the Nigerian Electricity Supply Company was established to supply electricity to the mining community around Jos and Bauchi from mini hydro plants installed in the fast-flowing rivers at Kura, near Jos. A few years later, the second development at Ijora B, an 85 megawatts oil-fired generator was added in the 1940s. Distinguished guests, I do not intend to bore you with the history of electricity development in Nigeria. I'm sure some of my colleagues here know the story very well. The intention in revisiting the history is to reveal a pattern which I have noticed from 1896 to today, and this should ignite our curiosity and help our understanding of where we are today and how we can escape from this labyrinth. 6 years later, in 1946, the Public Works Department set up the Nigerian Government Electricity Undertaking, NGEU, as a unit of the department. NGEU was to develop electricity generation and distribution in 13 major cities, while the NA took over the same duty in Ibadan, Abeokuta, Kano, Katsina. However, 4 years later, the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, ECN, for those of us who are old enough, was created as a government statutory corporation through the 1950 Ordinance number 15. ECN took over all the 13 electricity undertakings with a total installed capacity of 25.2 megawatts and assumed electricity supply to the whole country. Between 1960 and 1974, ECN's installed capacity grew, but curiously, the Niger Dams Authority, forgive me, I'm Niger Delta, so was established in 1962 under the office of the Prime Minister to construct and operate the Kainji Dam with a first phase of 320 megawatts. When ECN started the construction of 132 kV transmission lines, that's the first time we started having transmission lines. NESCO, on the other hand, was growing its capacity to about 25 megawatts by building small hydro plants. The biggest of them was 2 megawatts and diesel generating sets. NDA was also extended its mandate to include the second phase extension at Kainji and began studies to develop new hydro plants at Shiroro and Jeba. Before we leave this realm of history, kindly permit me to highlight some events which most of my listeners may be familiar with. Soon after the decision by the colonial government to install a 60-kilowatt generator, and I want you to listen to this, and wire some significant buildings and 120 street lights, it became apparent that government could not recover the cost of operating the facility. Government resorted to increased charge per unit, which contributed to high incidence of default in the payment of electricity bill. Although government resorted to litigation to check the trend, it was forced to write off many bad debts, even in 1933. The recourse to litigation was also problematic, as many of the defaulters absconded or pleaded insolvency. Thus, in 1933 and 1934, government wrote off debts of £26, 16 shillings and 1 pence, and £28, 5 shillings and 2 pence, respectively. Thereafter, more measures were introduced to reduce this threat. Separate card indexes were introduced for two categories of consumers. One card for those who they thought had the ability to pay their current bills, and those who could be persuaded to pay if they default. In this group were colonial officers, firms of standing, and owners of substantial properties. The other card index for all the other consumers. Even with the introduction of these new measures, including card indexes, the colonial administration, weary of subsidizing growing power supply to Lagos, had to develop the modern system of tariffs and customer classifications that all utilities use today. It is instructive to point out at this stage that the government soon realized that the good illumination of roads and public ways was a prerequisite for the successful development of new estates. What was happening in Yaba Estate at that time was that people were rushing to go and build in Yaba Estate, and this put a lot of pressure. The influx became very prohibitive. The same issues that challenged the colonial administration over 100 years ago, such as customer defaults and resistance to payment of electricity bills, still plague our discourse up till today. I'm sure that we all know that. Though electricity was supplied to a growing number of people in Nigeria throughout the 20th century, its use was subject to restrictions. In fact, during that period, people were restricted from using certain appliances in their homes. This became inevitable as the number of consumers increased and demand for electricity exceeded supply. We'll see this pattern over and over again. The normal shortfalls in demands were further compounded by delays in the delivery of materials from the United Kingdom. Several regulations were introduced which placed restriction on the use of appliances. The virtual, I say this is the beginning of impunity. The virtual monopoly of ECN conferred sweeping powers on it and made it immune from sanction or liability for damage or loss sustained by a consumer on account of the interruption of its supplies. To bridge the demand gap, individuals were licensed to generate electricity up to, but not exceeding 10 kilowatts for domestic purposes and up to 200 kilowatts for industrial purposes. A fee of £2, 2 shillings was charged for a license for any installation up to and including 100 kilowatts. And this was subject to the non-availability of power. Once power was resolved, you are expected to disconnect your power supply and without any payment of compensation. One then wonders why such operators were not allowed to sell their excess capacity, at least to their neighbors. Licenses were also issued to several organizations, NESCO, African Timber and Plywood, Shell Petroleum Development Company in the Niger Delta. In comparison, ECN alone had 89.9% of electricity generated in 1960, and this grew to about 87.4% in 1966. The balance was supplied by private individuals. In table 1.1, you will see the percentage of ECN and all the other organizations that were supplying electricity at the time. According to the World Bank report, the power supply situation began to deteriorate, leading to severe shortages, which resulted to scheduled power costs caused by a combination of factors, mainly technical and managerial. The years 1965 and 1966, pre the Civil War, were among the worst years for power shortages. Table At this point, let me itemize some remarkable events that keep repeating themselves to highlight the pattern I alluded to at the beginning of this paper. It was reported, for instance, that the general manager of ECN at the time, one Mr. Y's son, explained that the largest turbine at Ijora Power Station that broken down since 1963 had the second roller blade damaged in 1965. Bad welding caused a reduction in the plant's generating capacity when the roller blades were installed. This was compounded by a delay in the commissioning of another 17 megawatt plant, a shipping strike in England, and a burst boiler at the station. Shipping strike in England. You know, let me go on. Compared to the crisis of the period 1980 to 2002, this was mere child's play. But in the conditions of the 1960s, the unstable power was unsettling. It is alarming that between 1960 and 1966, whereas the total installed capacity in the entire country increased by only 82%, the total demand increased by 215%. The rising demand for electricity meant that power plants had to be kept running all of the time without sufficient routine maintenance and repairs. The resultant big breakdown of equipment, cable faults, mechanical fatigue, inefficiency of maintenance engineers contributed to making power failures more frequent in Lagos in the 1960s. Lagos was and remains the largest consumer of electricity till date. There was therefore a recourse to load shedding of the magnitude of over 800,000 kilowatt hours between January and December in 1966. The economic consequences of this frequent load shedding is captured like this. One consequence of power failures was dislocation in production programs of majority of the farms. With most farms unable to meet some orders, either deferred or canceled them. This caused scarcity of such items as sugar, cement, beer, soft drinks, textiles, motor and cycle tires, with the resultant price inflation. Inflation in Lagos soon spreads to other parts of the country as Lagos remains the industrial and commercial hub of Nigeria. And I want you to listen to this, after the creation of ECN, it absorbed the facilities of the native authorities in 1952. Due to lack of proper organization, planning, and management in the power sector prior to 1951, all the undertakings that ECN took over were on economic units, and their assets were either obsolete or in a run-down operation condition. ECN was confronted with the need for an immediate rehabilitation as well as expansion program for meeting rising consumer demand for power transmission. Transmission facilities were also non-existent. I want you to fast track to 2014 when PHCN was unbundled and privatized. The successor distribution companies were confronted with the need to immediately put in place rehabilitation and expansion programs to meet rising consumer demands. Unfortunately, the discourse lacked then and still lack today the capacity, both financial and technical, to meet this challenge, compelling government to intervene yet again to bridge the gaps. Additionally, the transmission facilities, even in 2014, are still well below the required capacity 62 years later. During the first 5 years of its operation, ECN sustained increasing annual operating losses that climbed to a loss of £405,000 in 1955-56. Why are we surprised that we are posting losses in that sector, even now? This cycle began in 1896. Government was unable to recover their expenditure in the sector and was repeated in 1933-34, and then in 1955 and 56. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please stay with me as we continue this journey. In 1972, ECN and NDA were amalgamated to form National Electric Power Authority, NEPA, thus merging power generation and electricity distribution into one vertically integrated state monopoly. This act which those who were in charge at the time believe facilitated the rapid expansion of electricity transmission and distribution, arguably, is what the latter enactment of the 2005 Electric Power Sector Reform Act attempted to correct. Perhaps the availability of a master plan would have guided these flip-flop changes in policies. I will return to this later. Nigeria did indeed have a 30-year master plan. It was prepared by the world-renowned engineering firm, Tractor Bell. It took account of Nigeria's population growth, rural to urban migration, growth of cities, industrialization, and so on and so forth. It had 5-year rolling plans with specific targets to achieve in each year, in each 5-year plan. There were targets that we were expected to achieve. If Nigeria had followed that plan, making the necessary adjustments at each 5-year review, by 2000, Nigeria will have had a grid dispatching and distribution of between 10 and 15,000 megawatts. What do we have today? Even in 2021, we have not reached that level. Regrettably, the master plan, together with all other sector master plans in health, in education, in transport, in housing, were thrown out by the military government, who saw abundant oil revenues in excess of the day-to-day current expenses of running the country. The lights were on at the time. The phones were working. They couldn't imagine, even if it was limited to a few people, but they couldn't imagine that the explosive growth that will come over the next 20 years, what it will be like. So to them, those surpluses were there for the taking. All the master plans were gradually disrupted, then and eventually completely abandoned. Then all sectors resorted to firefighting approach to solving our problems, and we have never been able to catch up since then. It was such crisis of emergence which propelled the Olusegun Obasanjo government to look for a quick solution to the power problem, which at that time was maybe wrongly perceived as lack of generation alone, which was how in 2004 the government of President Obasanjo conceived the idea of the National Integrated Power Project situated in the presidency. According to some accounts, NIPP was intended to address the issues of insufficient electric power generation and excessive gas flaring from oil exploration in the Niger Delta regions. 7 power plants were planned to be built with the General Electric Nieee frame gas turbine, which has ISO rating of 126 megawatts each. Great as this idea was, it is now clearer that government at the time did not do a thorough need assessment to determine the best solution to the perennial power problems the country was facing at the time. To begin with, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, the decision to use GE Nieee frame gas turbine in open cycle only because of immediate availability. I understand that the reason why government went for it was because they were almost ready to ship. It's flawed. This type of turbine has high efficiency only as combined cycle. I'm an apostle of building for the future. So when planning for a project, the vision should be to look down 50 years or more ahead. The plan also did not encompass the essential need of expansion in the associated transmission network and the revamping of the aging and decaying distribution network. Recall that 20 years ago, the consensus in Nigeria was that electricity was a social service and obligation of government, whereas today, more people accept it as a commercial enterprise that must be paid for. When the special guest of honor was talking, he made some, and he said, even if we get all of this, are we going to be able to have socio-economic development? I will come to this later. The answer is no, but I will come to this. In my view, we missed the golden opportunity of modernizing our electricity infrastructure at a crucial time when we had access to the excess crude account, which is no longer available. What is mainly responsible for this is the discarding of the national development plans, as I said earlier, by the military administration that rudely intruded into our polity and the relatively short-sighted horizons of our elected public officials, which don't allow them to support long-term plans. We won't blame them, spanning periods beyond their tenure because of the pressure from the electorate We are yet to recover from the damage that was done almost 35 years down the line, and subsequent inconsistent government policies since then. And we politicians seem to have learned all the bad lessons from our predecessors, and maybe we do it even better than them. Perhaps again, some will contest this. The mistakes were because the right professionals were not allowed to drive such important processes. Successive governments have not had the longer term horizon that such professional engineering requires. Nigeria does not lack seasoned and world-acclaimed engineers with adequate experience and emotional intelligence to drive what was supposed to be a revolution in the electricity sector. And the truth of the matter is that some of them are in this hall this morning. Go anywhere in the world, you will find Nigerian engineers working in and indeed leading teams designing, developing, and building tomorrow's infrastructure, whether it is in the new underground trains in London, or nuclear power plants in the US, or even Tesla's space rocket. Our boys and girls are all over the place. The field of engineering profession, like no other, has for a long time been invaded by other professionals, and this is where I always get into trouble, and it has become politicized. This has had consequential negative effect on the development of the nation. It must not be allowed to continue. Please sip your coffee and let us continue our journey. NEPA continued to exist until 2005 when President Obasanjo signed into law the EPSR Act, transforming NEPA into Power Holding Company of Nigeria Limited. Significantly, the Act established that the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission and unbundled PHCN from a vertically integrated company into 18 autonomous companies consisting of 6 number generating plants and 11 distribution companies. I don't know how they got about the number of distribution companies, and I don't want to say negative things. And then they left the Transmission Company of Nigeria. The government, through its privatization office, the Bureau for Public Enterprises, divested 80% of the thermal power plants and 60% of the electricity distribution companies, but retained full ownership of the 2 hydropower plants, giving only multi-year concessions for their operators. However, it retained full ownership of and management of the transmission company. Some of the notable effects of the EPSR Act of 2005 are as follows: transformation of NEPA to PHCN, establishment of NEC, establishment of private participation, enablement of private participation in power generation and electricity distribution, the regulation of PHCN and unbundling to multiple corporations from a vertically integrated monopoly into 18 autonomous bodies, which I consider to be a bold step. I consider the establishment of NEC to be a great idea. I consider the enablement of private participation to come into the sector excellent, but I believe that the implementation was poor. From the above narrative, it is obvious that until recent times, the development of electricity in Nigeria has been a story of reacting after events rather than progressive forward-thinking and future planning. Taking the changing demographics of the country into consideration, there is therefore the need for planned growth rather than unplanned sprawl, which hampers infrastructure development. I'm sure the Honorable Minister and former Governor of Lagos will be very familiar with this. Lekki and Lagos have grown without plan to the extent that TCN and even NDPHC find it very difficult to find a right of way. And when you eventually find it, you have to pay through your nose. The cost of right of way is even more than the cost of executing the project itself. The lack of power infrastructure then suppresses development. It is a vicious circle. This is typical of most parts of the country, especially the urban areas. Urban and regional planning must be taken seriously and perhaps backed by enforceable law. I recall that the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in 1976, I was a young university student, and I remember that when you drive from the Lagos end to the Ibadan end, you will see the right of way clearly demarcated, and you with this chain fence link all the way from Lagos to Ibadan on both sides. Today, we have encroached on these places. Churches, Even government organizations have encroached on this right of way. And that is, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, sir. I remember that the Honorable Minister of Works once said that it was difficult to expand that road beyond a certain point because you will just be confronted with paying way leave and relocating people all the time. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's travel along this journey. Let us take a break to reflect on where we are today. I informed you earlier about the coming into effect of the EPSR Act, and I've dwelt on this extensively. One of the things that I've noticed in this sector is the proliferation of government agencies in this sector. Government seems to be fragmented. We have about 21 different bodies, organizations dealing with power in the sector. And all of them are working in silos. Nobody knows what this one is doing. Nobody knows what the other is doing most times. I hear that CBN is building power plants. I hear that NNPC is building power plants. There are organizations like NDPAC that have excelled in these areas. Why are they not consulted? Why are they not meeting? Why are we not harmonizing our efforts? Government needs to present a coherent, unified face with consistent policy. A master plan of not less than 25 years, perhaps broken into 5-year plans, which should not be jeopardized by changes of government, just like other successful countries like Singapore, like India, like Rwanda. As of today, Nigeria has a generation capacity of 12.1 gigawatts, while actual operations are about 4 to 5 gigawatts. The corresponding transmission and distribution capacity is about 5 to 6 MVA, respectively. This translates to about 184 kilowatt hours per person. The attached figure 22 below, which you can see, tells us about what we should expect. If you have a generation capacity of 1 megawatt, your transmission capacity should be about between 2 and 2.5 megawatts, and your distribution should be about 4 megawatts. So for a generation capacity of between 12 and 15 megawatts, we should have a transmission capacity of between 24 and 30,000 megawatts, and between 48 and 50,000 megawatts. But what do we have today? In actual fact, the transmission capacity is about 5 to 6,000 MVA, and the distribution capacity is about 5,000 MVA. Generation is curtailed by gas constraints due to lack of cash flow to pay gas suppliers. On the other hand, frequency misalignment on transmission grid also affect generation negatively. The constraints in the distribution network results in the ability of discos to take more load from the national grid, even when surplus power is available. You see that in figure 2.3. About 85 million Nigerians don't have access to power supply. And Nigeria is classified as a lower middle income country. We're expected to have about 750. We're expected to have about 750 megawatts per megawatt hour per person. But today we have 184 kilowatt hours. South Africa, in comparison, has 3,800 kilowatt hour per person per annum, and this translates to $6,000 of productivity. China, with energy consumption of 5,300 kilowatt hours, produces $10,500 of productivity. You see, when you see figure 2.5, when you compare us to Ethiopia, Ghana, Egypt, India, and China, we see that Nigeria is falling behind in the that comparison of population and GNI per capita. And then in the subsequent figures 2.6, you have the GNI and electricity consumption per capita with the same countries. So historically, the demand has always been much higher than the available capacity. In the installed capacity in Nigeria is about 12.7 gigawatts. Non-availability, that is what is not available, is about 5.9. So what we have, available capacity, in real terms is about 7.6. Non-operational capacity is another negative of minus 2.5. So operational capacity is about 5 gigawatts. Transmission losses result into about 0.5 gigawatts. Then distribution losses brings it lower to 4 gigawatts. And out of this, you will soon see how much of that the people receive, the consumers receive in their homes. The picture of where we are today becomes gloomier in figure 2.8, which shows the annual tariff shortfall for the discos as well as the remittance gap. Resultantly, government has had to step in to cover shortfalls to let the energy flow. In 2017 alone, this was through the instrumentality of His Excellency, the Minister of Works, Power and Housing at the time. Government approved the sum of 701 billion central bank facility for NBED. Distinguished guests, nobody in this audience needs any further proof to know that the state of electricity in Nigeria is indeed anything but complimentary. To drive home this point, you may wish to know that whereas in 2020, from a total installed capacity of 12,500 megawatts, only 4,087 megawatts was available for generation. The 4,087 megawatts of available generation was used to generate 32,181 gigawatt hours of electricity, but only a little under 30,000 gigawatts, which is 29,819 gigawatts, managed to be delivered to the consumers, to the discos. And then out of that, only 22,163 gigawatts hour of electricity was delivered to the consumers, losing 7,656 gigawatts to poor infrastructure and theft. In all, 32% of electricity is lost during transmission and distribution. This is huge. As if that was not enough, discos in 2020 billed for 22,163 gigawatts of electricity to customers, 60% of whom are not metered, to generate 816 billion in revenue, but only managed to collect 542 billion in the same year. Thus, inefficiencies in the distribution sector contribute a significant portion of the 50% aggregated technical, commercial, and collection losses. You see the graph of what I've just spoken about in figure 2.9, which is on the screen now. To summarize my findings on where we are today, let me tell you a short story. Just as I was rounding up this lecture, I received a call from a well-respected and decorated elder statesman, Engineer Joseph Makoju, who I fondly call Uncle. He was in our office with some of his partners to see the managing director, and he decided to pay a courtesy call on one of his favorite aburos. After a short exchange of pleasantries, he acknowledged the receipt of my letter of invitation to this event. I then gave him a quick rundown of what I was going to talk about, thinking that I would be chastised. He was so excited and told me that those views were mutual. He then promised to send a few of his write-ups on the state of the sector to me. He immediately got home, he sent those mails, but I refused to open it because I wanted to complete my work and I didn't want to be influenced by anybody at all. He called me to give me an unconditional permission to feel free to use the materials if I find anything useful without any further recourse to him. Well, I'm pleased to surprise you, Uncle Joe, that I'll be quoting you extensively in this paper. Using the words of Joe Makoju, I submit without any fear of contradiction that, and I quote, "The truth of the matter is that the privatization of the electricity sector has failed, and there is need to go back to the drawing board to identify what can be done to address the root causes of the failure." I'm not done with Joe Makoju. Unless government is ready to bite the bullet and accept the painful truth and be ready to revisit the exercise to take appropriate, bold remedial actions, the sector will sink further into the circles of recurring failures followed by periodic bailouts, a process that in the long run is not sustainable and will ultimately lead to catastrophic failure of the sector. I'm sure that while I was relating the history, you have seen this cycle repeated over and over again. Already, this cycle of expensive government bailouts has started. These are the thoughts I have expressed privately since 2016. Unfortunately, those who have invested interest will hear none of it. I see people on television propounding all kinds of theory every time, and I'm amazed. Do they really love this country? Unfortunately, in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32, Jesus Christ said some words, and I'm sure that he will allow me to quote him today. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Let us begin to plan for the future. In planning for the future, there is need to forecast the estimated population demand growth. In actual fact, I believe that it is time for us to start regulating population in Nigeria. I'm one of those people who have crossed the bar of the number of, but unfortunately, you cannot, Your Excellency, I'm sure you know we cannot backdate any law. So I have escaped to the other side. Figure 3.1, produced by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations, are graphs showing the total population of Nigeria and population by age group in figure 3.2. And we see that the projection of our population in 2020 is 206 million. In 2030, it's supposed to be 262 million. In 2050, it's 401 million. As stated earlier, Nigeria is classified in the lower middle income group, which is expected to have a mean power supply per capita of 750 kilowatt hours, but ours are far lower than that mean. Because when you put our population into it, we'll fall down to 184 kilowatt hour. The projections for 2030, 2040, and 2015, which you saw, which is the comparison of GDP in some selected cities, is a reflection in relation to electricity consumption to expose how far behind Nigeria is. This should help us to comprehend the estimated forecast gap prepared by TCN in figure 3.5 and 3.6, which defines a generation forecast scenario of 10 gigawatts by 2020. We're in 2021. I'm not sure we have reached 6,000 gigawatts. 15 gigawatts in 2025, 25 in 2030, and 28 gigawatts in 2035. This expansion plan aims to remove the infrastructure constraint to reach a transfer capacity of 10,000 megawatts. To achieve this, TCN will be investing approximately $800 million until 2023 and about $2 billion in its network to reach a transfer capacity of 13,000 megawatts. Looking forward, the TCN Power System Master Plan defines a generation forecast scenario of 10 gigawatts. I said that earlier, and you can see this in the next slide of figure 3.5. Figure 3.6 gives the gap in the transmission system expansions and the amount of money that they should spend. That's how we arrive at that $800 million. And then in figure 3.7 and 3.8, we saw, this is the TCN Discourse Interface Assessment Project. We saw how much additional power from ongoing projects that they expect will be delivered, required number of 33 kV feeders of 173, and required injection capacity of 3,163 MVA. Let us begin to dimension the solutions. But before I go that, I must mention that there's a study funded by JICA, the Japanese government, coordinated by TCN with NEC and all DISCOs. They have estimated that a DISCO capital requirement of $4.2 billion is required to address capacity shortfall and enable load growth to 10,000 megawatts. While I do not want to bore my listeners and or readers, I have taken the liberty to present some data and graphic illustrations in dimensioning the solution. This is with the aim of helping us to further comprehend the many interwoven nature of the sector. And I did a graph showing the revenue cost, what brings about the revenue cost. It consists of the generation cost, the transmission cost, distribution and commercialization cost, then other costs, NEC, SO, market operator, financial cost of all the regulatory shortfall, gives us the revenue requirement. In the next slide, the next figure 4.2, you see the requirements made by Nieee to arrive at the revenue requirements. In trying to answer, it is important to ask a few critical questions at this point. How do we raise the funds to bridge the gaps in both the transmission and distribution networks? Assuming these investments are made, are customers willing to pay for better quality with value for money? In trying to answer these questions, it is noteworthy to make a few points, howbeit in no particular order. The first is that keeping tariffs low only benefits the rich people, those of you who are here today. I say this because in Nigeria, generally, it is the wealthy population who have access to reliable power supply. Therefore, for every 10 naira the government spends on meeting the tariff shortfall, 8 naira goes to the richer households who don't need help paying their bills. The federal government has mobilized a lot of support for the distribution sector, as seen in the preceding table 2.8. And I'm sure that the Honorable Minister has talked about this many, many, many times. Subsidy only benefits a few people. NEC has also issued a new service-based tariff to the discos, which are cost-reflective and subject to service delivery. Federal government is supporting the distribution sectors with loans for capital expense to reduce the ATC and C losses. World Bank, African Development Bank are both negotiating a $1 billion support package for the distribution sector. But all of these virtually excludes those who are in Band D, which is customers that are in the lower class and those who are underserved and those who are not served at all. The tides are, however, changing, as the government can no longer afford to invest in unlimited social services. Unfortunately for us, the money is not even there anymore. The federal government has set a precedent of investing in the power sector on a commercially sustainable basis. In recent times, societies have evolved and new models have been developed based on commercial sustainability. These models, which started in the developed world, are increasingly being applied all over the world in respect of water, electricity, health, education, roads, sanitation, and all kinds of services. Policy distortions have created a situation where the poorest in our society are paying the highest tariff of between 150 to 200 kilowatt per kilowatt hour, while the richest in our society are enjoying the benefits of government subsidized tariffs. Let me go to section 5 and talk about my constituency. As I said earlier, I was given a brief to deliver a lecture that reflects my area of specialization and showcase my vast experience in solving peculiar problems facing the society. It is therefore necessary that I use my experience as Executive Director in Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited for the last 5 years in providing solutions to the endemic past challenges facing us. In the first 4 years, I was Executive Director overseeing 7 departments of generation and renewable energy, transmission, distribution, gas and fuel, operations and maintenance, environment and community relations, and information services and documentation. Kindly permit me to do this by briefly explaining what NDPAC is all about. Up till today, I still hear people say, oh, I thought you were in Port Harcourt. I thought you were in Bayelsa, because they don't even understand what NDPAC is. NDPAC is a company incorporated by the government of Nigeria and in 2006 as an intervention agency to manage the National Integrated Power Project. Its investors are the federal government of Nigeria, which owns 47% equity in the company, the 36 states of the federation, the 774 local governments, the federal capital territory own the balance of 53%, and every one of these entities have a share certificate in their possession. Its activities are now guided by a 17-member board of directors. I say 17 because when we came in, we were only 14, headed by the vice president as chairman, 6 governors representing each of the geopolitical zones, 4 ministers, namely the Federal Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the Federal Minister of Finance, the Federal Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning now, the Federal Minister of Petroleum and the Federal Minister of Power, then the Managing Director, Mr. Chiedu Ugbo, and 5 of us who are executive directors make up the management team. As I stated in a paper I delivered at the second 2017 Distinguished Engineering Lecture organized by the Akure branch of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, we cannot write the history of electricity development in Nigeria without paying special tribute to those who conceptualized the NIPP and, of course, its first managing director, Mr. James Olotu. The legacy of excellence has continued with the present management, which came into office a little over 5 years ago under Chiedu Ugbo. You know, when the Agama red-necked lizard jumps down from the wall, it will nod its head like this. The Yoruba people say, "Bo onyimi ma anyira," I will translate that. If you don't praise me, I will praise myself. Let me, on behalf of the foundation and present management and staff of NDPHC, extol what is arguably the largest infrastructure intervention in Africa and possibly Nigeria. And possibly Nigeria's most successful public-owned corporation, ranking in pari passu and even maybe above the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company Limited. The impact of NDPHC on the development of infrastructure in the electricity sector is unsurpassed by any. In numbers, NDPHC has, in the space of 10 years, built a total of 10 power plants, which today has combined design capacity of 5,047 megawatts, of which 4,047, almost equal to all of the power that we are able to transmit in Nigeria, is operational. This is more than what all its predecessors, and I know that a lot of, I will get knocks for this, from NGEU to PHCM built in all of the 100 years. It is more than that. In the transmission sector, NDPHC has undertaken 121 projects, building 15 numbers of 330 kV substations. Another one is going to be delivered, in fact, has been connected to the national grid today in Lafia, a 330, 132, 33 with 6 feeders in Lafia, a state that has been operating candlelight for the past 30-something years that it was established. We have built substations with 6,150 MVAs of 313/132 capacity, which is an increase of about 100% on the existing infrastructure. We have added 50% of the transmission capacity at 132/33. In the years, NDPHC constructed 2,686 kilometers of 330 kV lines, 765 kilometers of 132 kV lines. This is an increase of about 50% and 25% respectively to the existing 330 kV and 132 kV lines. In addition to these, we have carried out expansion works in 36 TCN substations. The story is not different in the distribution sector, where as at 2019, we have executed 374 projects consisting of 334 33/11 kV injection substations with the transformer capacity of 4,195 MVA. We have reticulated 2,256 kilometers of 33 kV lines and 4,670 kilometers of 11 kV lines. This translates to about 50% improvement on the pre-existing infrastructure. This is as at 2019. I don't know how many of such projects we have commissioned in the last 2 years. In some of those places, when we go there, we are received with pomp and pageantry because the people know that, the value of the work that we're doing. Our tentacles also stretch to the gas sector, where we carried out 7 gas and metering station projects. I make bold to say, with all sense of pride and praise to all my colleagues, that no agency does what we do with the same speed, the same quality, and the same value for money. NDPAC leads and others follow. For me, the greatest asset of NDPAC is its investment in human capital development, and its contribution to the expansion of the engineering profession cannot be downplayed. The story is not different in the distribution sector, like I said. And I'm sure that you have been watching the slides. Let me talk briefly about our balance sheet. NDPAC group balance sheet as of 2019, we have total assets of 1,197,230,726, a total revenue of 102,306,800,000. And if we add the lost revenue due to suppressed tariff, it's about 30 billion. If we add lost revenue due to idle capacity, 328 billion. Potential group profit for 2019 after adjustments for tariff and capacity is 364 billion. Case studies for modeling NIPP phase 2. This is where we need to face reality. The original mandate of NDPAC was to build power plants and sell them. The power plants are to be sold to private investors, while the revenue would be invested to build more power plants. However, due to obvious gaps and to ensure that power generated in the power plants ultimately reach the consumers, its mandate was expanded to include the construction of associated transmission, distribution, and gas infrastructures. I remember that meeting after meeting, when the special guest of honor was Minister of Power, he would tell us, if you build a substation and the consumers are not connected, do everything, even if it means you're paying money, additional money, to ensure that the consumers are connected. Do it. Don't wait for the discos to do it. The process of the divestment of power plants, which began in 2011, was however stalled after the emergence of the preferred builders due to several reasons, which include illiquidity of the electricity market, microeconomic conditions, scarcity of capital, and lack of bankable PPAs. Thus, NDPAC Board of Directors directed that the management should commence the operations of the power plants. That's why we are operating the power plants today. Recently, the federal government of Nigeria, through the Bureau for Public Enterprises, and I'm going to get into trouble again, we started the divestment process. With the benefit of insight and based on our bitter experience with previous privatization of public-owned enterprises in most of our sectors, with reference to the power sector, will this exercise produce the desirable result? Without any iota of hesitation, my answer is no. The reasons for this are not far-fetched. It is clear that from all studies that the sale cannot attract appreciable value. At this time, the sale of power plants will also not improve power supply to consumers, because even if we sell these power plants, what are you going to do to get the power back to the consumers? Nor will it have any effect on the ever-rising tariff regime. In the words of my brother and my friend, Engineer Magaji Dawalu, Chairman of the House of Representative Committee on Power, selling the power plants at this time is like selling one's house to buy groceries. Although NDPAC was initially meant to build power plants and sell to private investors, however, present market circumstances do not allow for a sale. Like in the game of golf, a good golfer must always change his strategy and technique. When you tee off and your ball falls into a bunker, you don't use the same instruments that you have been using because you are Tiger Woods. You have to change your club and use an appropriate club to get out of that circumstance. So we must focus on the aim of putting the ball in the hole within the shortest possible time and with fewer strokes. What then is the alternative? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I respectfully submit that the most, and I dare say only, viable option is for the owners of NDPC to adopt the Nigerian liquefied natural gas model henceforth. The board of NDPC must resolve to invite investment in the company by a strategic partner like the FGN has done with NNLG joint venture, where international partners invested 51% shares in the company to operate joint ventures. The benefit can be seen in the success story of NNLG, and this is well known. I mean, NNLG, they have paid $9 billion in taxes to the federal government. They have $12 billion in dividends. The company has paid $15 billion for feed gas since inception, with an asset base of $17.5 billion, which the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, where the Nigerian National Corporation owns 49% share. NLG has so far created 12,000 direct jobs and 18,000 indirect jobs through its army of contractors. Between 2008 and 2014, NLG contributed 4% of Nigeria's GDP and has supported local content development. NDPC can replicate and surpass these performances in the power sector, and there are similar models that can be mirrored in the case of NTPC of India. And I must issue a caveat here. I'm neither campaigning for a relationship with nor being an advocate for NTPC, but I'm only saying I just want to emphasize that these models have been replicated in other parts of the world, and therefore it is not strange. And in the next slides, you see the performance of NTPC with a personal strength of 23,000, group annual sale revenue of 12.8 billion. I think this is as of 2019. Group balance sheet at incorporation was only 145 million. Ours was about $5 billion. So a company that was integrated, that was incorporated with 125 million US dollars, today has a balance sheet total assets of in excess of 37.1 billion. They declared a profit of 1.8 billion in that year. In addition to power generation, they have done extensive other allied activities through joint vectors with GE, with HEL, for the maintenance and support of turbines and electrical equipment, building of large industrial boilers for combined cycle. It also undertakes upstream gas exploration, production of fertilizers, and so on and so forth. You can read in the lecture booklet the success story that NTPC has become. And these are my observations. I'm rounding up now. Prior to making my conclusion, I would like to capture from the previous section some of the lessons we can learn. Customers want and need electricity, but unless they get quality and reliable service, they will be reluctant to pay. Government intervention, politicization, fragmented and multiple layers of government's incoherent policy, all added to bureaucracy without necessarily adding value. The time delays and cost escalations due to government bureaucracy have throughout history always impacted negatively the power sector, throwing us back decades, making it very difficult to catch up. Poor planning or intermittent government intervention causes more damage than good. The unplanned development of urban areas in the past decades frustrates and increases the planned development of infrastructure, without which the urban areas cannot grow and thrive, thus creating a vicious circle of lack and paralysis, which is holding back the country. Where people cannot access public power supply, they will resort to investment in private generation at a cost to society and indeed the environment, pollution, and so on and so forth. Lack of electricity perpetuates the vicious circle of underdevelopment, crime, social instability, and so on. The same pattern of mistakes is seen. Over 135 years of history in Nigeria are being repeated all over. There are several recommendations on how to mitigate the identified problems stalling the electrification of Nigeria. It does no harm to repeat them here. I'm sure that you have heard this over and over again. And this is something that I share with Engineer Joe Makoju. It is time to prepare a credible long-term master plan spanning at least 30 years for the development of electricity in Nigeria. The master plan must be broken into 5-year rolling plans with practicable, realizable targets for each sector. Preparation of the master plan should be carried out using international best practices in consultation with policymakers and stakeholders in the industry. In doing this, we must avoid putting up a jamboree and blame games. Everybody in the sector must be involved. We need to restructure and strengthen the regulatory agencies. Appointment into these bodies must be based on proven competence, experience, and demonstrable integrity. Agencies must be independent from government and political influences and must be empowered to enforce the rules and regulations. Government must present a coherent and united face. I said this, but I'm not tired of repeating it, with consistent policies. The proliferation of agencies, about 25 at the last count in the sector, presents a fragmented government as these agencies often work in silos. Recently, we read CBN, NDPAC, NMPC saying they want to build power plants. I wonder why they cannot leave that job to those who have perfected the art of building power plants. There should be collaborative planning to align investment plans to ensure effective and measurable progress and thus avoid unnecessary overlapping. Investment must be directed to the immediate needs that correct or detect or effect progress. The previous privatization must be revisited without delay. Non-performing actors may need to be supplemented or even removed to bring in new players with verifiable financial and technical capacities to turn around the distribution end of the value chain. This will boost investors' confidence to attract the much-needed financing into the sector. We must ensure fairness through a clearly defined and impartial process. There's need to revisit the tariff issues to adopt a cost-reflective tariff that can guarantee bankable investment. As noted by Joe Makoju in a paper dated 24th July 2017, high tariff will make discos complacent, encourage the temptation for energy theft with consequential increases in collection loss, which we see is very high, which is already too high. Meanwhile, the regulator must incentivize discos to increase collections. I think the new arrangement has taken care of that. Multi-year tariff order must be reviewed to be user-friendly. We must put in place plans to complete the verification of and aggressively recover debts owed by ministries, departments, and agencies. While we carry out the restructuring and preparation of a master plan, we must take practical steps to reduce A, C, and C losses. We need to provide sufficient loops for improved system flexibility and reliability. There's need to install real-time operation-enhancing tools like SCADA, EMS, and online telecommunication facility. We need to improve the reliability of the grid and reduce faults at the distribution ends. This should be carried out within a 12-month period and aligned with the master plan. Regulations need to be developed to deliver reliable power to the unserved and underserved communities in our urban and peri-urban areas. These unplanned developments around each city in the country, the slums and so on, make up approximately 50% of our urban population, now classified in the category D of consumers. Government throughout the Federation must take regional and urban planning seriously by enforcing regulations. Finally, we may have seen the slide in the value of the Nigerian naira by the US dollar against the US dollar and the consequent rise in the cost of goods. This is inevitable. A few weeks ago, it was reported that the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, while speaking at the midterm ministerial performance retreat, declared that we need to improve on the supply of foreign exchange through the import and export window. Although this was translated to mean a call for further devaluation of the naira by the mischief makers, the Vice President is correct in his submission that we need to improve on the supply of foreign exchange through the import and export window. This is about productivity. Until we increase productivity in our nation and we consume only what we produce and export what we produce, the rate of the dollar to the naira will continue to rise. We can only stem this tragic situation by increasing productivity. You have seen earlier in the lecture a correlation between the amount of energy available per capita and the economic productivity of the population. This will only happen when we can boldly and painstakingly take the steps enumerated above to guarantee steady, uninterrupted power supply. It is only then that Nigeria will truly be industrialized, thus releasing its citizens to exhibit their God-given potentials to become highly productive. We saw in the graphs shown in Figure 3.1 and 3.4 the direct relationship between electricity consumption and gross national income of a nation. Thus, we can safely deduce that productivity is also a function of electricity availability. When our young population are gainfully employed, their proclivity to take to crime will reduce to a tolerable level. It is only then that we can truly have an industrialized, safe, and great nation. In conclusion, I would like to repeat a few words that I've spoken before in a similar lecture. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have probably said here today everything you all have an idea about, and in doing so, have avoided too much controversy. You have seen the best of me, and I have deliberately saved the worst for the last. I'm usually not reputed to be diplomatic, but I would like you to depart from here. I wouldn't like you to depart from here without taking something with you. Will you permit me to shock you, please? Now, let us ruminate over this fact. Even, and the special guest of honor alluded to this in his opening remarks. If we have a magic wand today that will make it possible for us to apply all of the suggestions and the many others that others have proffered from experts and so many other organizations, Nigeria suddenly have funds to prosecute the projects required, and in a short time I seriously doubt that we have the ability to change the present decayed state of power infrastructure in Nigeria. Why, you may want to ask? Money alone cannot build a home. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have discovered that the problem with Nigeria is that virtually all of us have lost our values. I'll explain, then you can crucify me. Majority of Nigerians are in the habit of creating everything in their own image and in their own likeness. It is normal for us to make our traffic rules against all expected norms. When the traffic light at its road section shows red all over the world, it means stop. But in Nigeria, it means go. Nigerians want the laws of the land to answer to them. They interpret the Constitution according to their whims and caprices. Even the scriptures have different translations in the hands of our religious businessmen and practitioners. What is practiced in other countries with ease acquires scary dimensions for us. That, my distinguished audience, is what is wrong with us. Corruption is not native to us. In recent past, we saw how we do it with style. We bury raw cash in graveyard or in soak-away pits. Not in this regime. You just send a piece of paper to collect millions of foreign exchange from funds meant to save us from imminent death. Nigerians take pride in destroying the very infrastructure put in place for their well-being. The recent NSAS project is still very, very, very green in our memory. In some parts of the country, our fellow citizens excavate the foundations of towers, cutting live wires on a 330 kV transmission line. They dismember those towers only to use the members to make cheap spoons or earrings, plus some other non-essential items at the expense of all of us. On a daily basis, I receive letters from communities who demand for payment for hundreds of millions of naira to appease their gods who are displaced from their resting place because transmission lines travel over their shrines where they are located. The rate of vandalism of equipment and materials cannot be imagined. And this is done with vicious malice and wickedness. We must revive our value system, forcefully eradicate indiscipline, and fight corruption to a standstill to get out of this mess. And we, as engineers, must be in the forefront in this because engineering is a disciplined profession. The Nigerian Society of Engineers must examine the pupillage system, a tradition that is fast becoming extinct. In my times, in your first year, you go for 3 months. In your second year, you go for 3 months. In your third year, you go for 6 months, and so on and so forth. Doing the sewage system. The time has come for the Nigerian Society of Engineers to design a course of study that a graduate member must undertake before admission into full membership. The curriculum must include training in the ethics of the profession and the code of conduct expected of an engineer. This society must determine the length of pupillage and even encourage mentorship for a period of not less than 5 years after full membership. The election of officers of this noble profession cannot be subjected to mundane considerations like tribe, gender, or religion. It is time to make members of the society and engineering firms pay subscriptions that is enough to run our affairs, so we do not need to go begging anytime we need to organize events. Until we as engineers begin to appreciate the need for us to take active part in decision-making processes in our country, we cannot experience industrial revolution. Today, virtually all leadership positions in our political landscape have become the right of lawyers and others. And I always get into trouble about this. But I'm sure that my MD understands me very well now, that it is not directed at him. He's done a good job. From 1999 to date, virtually all agencies of government that have anything to do with power have become exclusive preserve of men of the legal profession, even under Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who surprisingly himself is an engineer. We forget the old adage that all human beings were born equal until God created engineers. Apologies to all my revered elders and friends here present. Engineers must perforce, therefore, rise to take their rightful position. It is something to earn, not to be assumed. In conclusion, let us recall that it is a known truism all over the world that electricity infrastructure development is not cheap, though technology is dynamic. Its availability in sufficient quantum and growing levels of improved usage is a panacea for development and a pointer to good governance. Indeed, there is proven positive correlation between a nation's GDP and the security of a nation and the quantum of electrical power available. Growth and development are made possible mainly by the provision of electricity to power the wheels of economic wealth and create employment. Power touches the lives of businesses and people, including the dead. You can't embalm, you can't keep the dead in mortuary if you don't have regular power supply. We must therefore take the provision of electric power in the right mix of technology as a very critical and serious governance and people matter, with sufficient reorientation of our citizens for infrastructure preservation to lead Nigeria to the greater level that we have always dreamed of. I believe proceeding beyond these matters will bore you, my better, more erudite and respected audience. I beg therefore to end by thanking you all for the great honor given me to stand before your majestic presence to deliver this lecture. I believe that we all know that a broom is much difficult to break than the individual stick, so working together, we will produce the desired results. My dear brothers and sisters, fellow engineers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, many will have been tempted to assume that this lecture was a declaration of battle between members of my noble profession of law and engineering in the manner that I complained about incursion into the theater of engineering. No, it is not. Rather, it is a call on our leadership to understand that there must be distinct demarcation of roles so that our nation can experience industrial revolution, without which we will not be able to witness true socio-economic growth. I sincerely express my gratitude to the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers for considering me worthy to deliver the 15th Distinguished Electrical and Electronic Engineer Annual Lecture. It is indeed an honor and a privilege that I do not take for granted, as I have no doubt in my mind that there are many more qualified to do justice to this topic or any other topic you may have chosen. I will forever remain grateful for this opportunity. I'd like to especially thank my sponsors, all of whom offered to share the huge financial responsibility of organizing this event. I'm truly grateful for your support. One single individual told me that if the times were different, he alone will contribute all of the money. We didn't even have to go to tell anybody. Willingly, people came forward to help us. And I remember this was the case in the Bible. When they said willingly, everybody came and contributed all that they have to build the house of the Lord. I like to. This address will not be complete if I fail to deeply appreciate the sincere kindness of my colleagues from Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited for their unflinching support. You are the reason why I have the boldness to do what I do. And you know it. I deeply appreciate you all, and I'm proud to be a member of the NDPAC family. My gratitude goes to the Managing Director of NDPAC, my fellow executive directors. I must make special mention of members of the committee that worked so hard to put this first-class show together, from Engineer Gazama, Engineer Valerie, Mrs. Nwakwo, Mrs. Pamela, Dr. Pamela, Engineer Yusuf Yari, Engineer Dauda. I can't even remember all of them. All of them. The contribution of my senior special assistant, Olive Okonkwo, and my technical assistant, Engineer Aji Ngama Lawal, were invaluable. Undoubtedly, I would not have been able to put this paper together without the intensive encouragement of my chief researcher and data collector, Mr. Simon Ani. Please take a bow. Please, Simon. Simon, if this lecture is regarded as a success, the credit goes to you. You had sleepless nights. You just allow me to do anything that I want to do. I know that many of the things I'm doing, you oppose them, but you allow me to be myself. I shout on you as if, you just tolerate me, while I accept full responsibilities for all the errors in this. I thank my lovely children and the General Officer Commanding of my own 1st Division, my beautiful wife, Omobola. I cannot but thank the Honorable Minister of Works, Babatunde Fashola, SAN, enough. All of you have been wonderful people. And I want to commend the words of J.M. Barry, who said, "Those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves." The best gratitude is saved for the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. I'm sure that those who know me know that I don't praise people. I say anything that I want to say in front of him and in front of any other person. But I must single him out. But for him, people like me will not have the boldness to come to serve this nation. And that's the truth. It is because he came into this political space that some of us have had the boldness to enter into the arena. It is because of you that I'm the executive director in Niger Delta Power Holding Company today. Only you can tolerate people like us in your government. I love you and I adore you, sir. And I respect your genuine love for our nation. We, your lieutenants, are very proud of you and wish you divine health and strength as you strive to complete the task of nation building. All glory, all honor, all adoration must go to the Almighty God, the giver of life and the faithful Lord of my soul. I thank you all for listening, and may God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Just before he gets to his seat, hang on. Before he goes to his seat, I'd like him to take a bow here. And we give him that resounding applause, deserving of the scholarly work that he has done. You take your bow, sir. We are proud of you. And you could feel the emotion in the voice. Tears running down his cheeks. Tears of joy, excitement, fulfillment. Tears of patriotism. And this is what we expect of every good Nigerian. He is indeed a good Nigerian. Please celebrate him one more time. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. We're proud of your achievements. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Please bring down the music. Time is of the essence. I see Mrs. Omobolanle also just saying, oh, that's my lovely husband. Oh my God, he did it. He nailed it. Please give it up for the wife as well. Thank you so much. And all of you that he has mentioned in his presentation. Whilst he was on, some dignitaries walked into the hall, and it is pertinent to recognize the presence of the Deputy Governor of Ondo State, His Excellency Honorable Lucky Orimisan Aye Datiwa. Please a round of applause for him. Your Excellency, you're welcome, sir. We also have with us the Minister of State Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Tayo Alasho Adura, joining us. Please a round of applause for Senator Alasho Adura. And we also have with us the Governor of Osun State. We had mentioned two distinguished individuals representing him, but because his flight was delayed, he finally made it here. The representative of the Governor of Osun State, Governor Boyega Oyetola, is represented here by Charles D.G. Akinola, PhD, Chief of Staff to the Governor. Please a round of applause for him. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you. Let me quickly recognize the presence of Malam Babayo Shehu, Executive Director of Finance and Accounts, Niger Delta Power Holding Company. A round of applause for him, as well as his other colleagues. We have Mr. Emmanuel, Mabum General Manager Admin, and Engineer Chidike, General Manager Corporate Planning. Alhaji Balarabe Abdullahi is CEO, Salogumu Group of Companies. Can we please put our hands together for all of them? Having recognized them, in the words of George Kefi, he says, and I quote, "Where and how you were born is not important. What is of utmost importance should be what you have done with where you have been," unquote. This speaks to what our special distinguished guest lecturer did today. Posterity will be kind, and posterity and history will be kind to our honoree, especially for the scholarly work he has done with the 15th Deal Distinguished Electrical and Electronics Engineering Annual Lecture with the title Electrification of Nigeria, a sine qua non to building a great industrialized and safe nation. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for Engineer Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers and fellow of the Nigerian Institute for Electronics and Electrical Engineers. Please, another round of applause for yourselves for painstakingly sitting down and listening to this lecture. Honorable Minister of State, we appreciate your presence. Thank you. We're moving on very quickly. We are trying to put ourselves together. We have recognized about 3 deputy governors who are here, standing in for the governor of Osun, representing the governor of Ondo, and also representing himself, deputy governor of Anambra State. And then, of course, we have ministers who have been here all day as well. So we're trying to, hello? The day is far spent. Lunch will be served at the end of this exercise. We're inching very close to that point. But I dare say that I'm sure for those of you in the engineering sector, you'd have taken something away from here. And I'm pretty much excited that we have policymakers as well as decision makers of our country seated here today. And you take these with you as you're going home. Please do not leave it behind. There's so much here for the government of the day. Tomorrow, it could be your turn to become a senator or a House of Reps member or a minister or a governor of your state or a director general of a particular agency of government that is concerned and charged with power generation in Nigeria. There's so much here. For me, this should be like a Bible of engineers. Do we agree? If we agree, then please another round of applause for Engineer Oyedele. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. But then, of course, members of the academia, you have a lot to borrow from here as well as students. Thank you so very much. We move on from here with the goodwill messages.
Distinguished gentlemen and ladies, we want to appreciate you so very much for your time, for your patience. There are quite a number of people here that, even as part of the team planning this event, I came in here and I met them here. And I can't just be wowed. For example, my very senior colleague and past president of NSC engineer, Emeka Momoizi, he was there before I got there. And you can't beat that. I mean, these are people that have respect for time. Please, can we put our hands together for him? Engineer Emeka Momoizi, FNSC, OFR. I think the Chief of Staff to the Governor of the State of Osun has been recognized, Dr. Charles D.G. Akinola. Now we have quite a number of individuals online. I mean, the online platform is actually buzzing with activity. We had a glitch there the other time, and of course we are back stronger and better. Interestingly, some of these people that are very dear to the lecturer said we should give their word to the lecturer and of course to the whole house. Let me start, because the past distinguished lecturer as well, Engineer Professor Media Jose, FNSC, is supposed to be here, but is sending his regards to everyone. As a matter of fact, he bought tickets. I can tell you that he bought tickets, but one thing led to the other, and he's not here physically. Now, of course, here, also online, another distinguished past lecturer, Engineer Ibikunle Stephen Ogumbayo. He's been there for so very long. FNSC, FNIEEE is actually the grand patron of the NIEEE at the national level. Sir, we celebrate you, we appreciate you, sir. He's been there for so long. Engineer Media Jose is also there. Of course, also online, we have a past national chairman of the NIEEE, is even the chairman of the planning committee, talking about Engineer Richard Anyede Adeneka, FNSC, FNIEEE. Sir, I'm sure you are hearing me. He's very far away out of the country, but he's still very much, out of the planet. We were there together. We appreciate you, sir. Of course, quite a number of other people online. The immediate past chairman of Lagos chapter, Engineer Bayo Olusodo, we see you. Engineer Dr. Barnabas from Jos. Mr. Shegun Adajo, we see you. Engineer John Funsho Adebayo, immediate past national chairman of the NIEEE, is also online. Of course, Engineer Yinka Adewume, we see every one of you. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. One more thing, Engineer Dr. Olusegun Ajayi, past president of the NSC, and of course, the pioneer chairman, national chairman of the NIEEE, has also been online for quite a while. We appreciate you all so very much, sir. Without much ado, we want to go to goodwill messages. And of course, very shortly before I do that, please, as it has been said, this document is kept. It's a very powerful document. And let me confess to you, the way NIEEE do our own thing, a copy of this is registered with the National Library of Nigeria. So it's not just anyhow document that you have there. Please keep it well. Thank you so very much. So we want to take goodwill messages from, of course, please, I'm sure you are going to understand with us, we are far behind schedule vis-a-vis time, and we just want to take goodwill messages from very few people, please. The Deputy Governor of Ondo State, who is here very much represented, please, okay, I think it's represented by the Chief of Staff, am I correct, sir? Oh, okay, the Deputy Governor is here himself, Ondo State, please. Can we have him here, sir? Can we have him? Oh, is not physically here right now? Oh, I'm so sorry. The mask is not doing. Please, can we welcome His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Ondo State, for his goodwill message. Very Succinct, sir. You are very much welcome, sir. Apologies.
The chairman of today's event and all the distinguished invitees, let me first of all apologize on behalf of the governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Odoya Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is unavoidably absent because he has other important state matters to attend to. And for me, who he has delegated to represent him, I started my day this morning with a program that I also have to represent at 10 a.m. this morning. And that took a while before I could get in here. So I'm so sorry also for coming a bit late. One of the reasons I don't even have the protocol list, but just pardon me. Every one of you are very important. I know some people have left. I met His Excellency Raji Fashola when I was coming in. Comrade Adam Oshemole was here, but they have taken their leave. But for all the distinguished senators that are still in the House, I recognize all of you, using Senator Tayo Olasho Adura, who is Honorable Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. I recognize you, and every other distinguished engineers that are in the House. I know today is your day. I acknowledge every one of you. The prayers and all the protocol that have been established earlier, I adopt all of them so that I don't miss out anyone. My brother, the guest lecturer for this 15th Distinguished Electrical and Electronics Engineer Annual Lecture, Engineer Ife Oyedele. I also congratulate you. I recognize you and your wife. I came in when your lecture was going on, and I met a good part of them. And glancing through this Bible, quote and unquote, I could see that a lot was done. And even though you ascribed that to one of your aides that did a lot of work, you see, let me just quickly say this because a lot have been said and I want to take our time. For the fact that all that were mentioned here, we want to see them happening in our country. For everywhere to be littered, to have energy, electricity everywhere to increase our productivity, our industrialization, so that we can get more tax, doesn't mean it will happen just like that. And you made mention of it in one of your slides. And for the fact that we don't even like the darkness we are seeing everywhere, the shortcomings, doesn't mean it will go away just like that. So there has to be a process. Something has to be done. And part of that which needs to be done is one of the reasons we are here today, to x-ray the journey so far, which Engineer Oyedele has taken us through. What has been, what is, and what we want to see. So we need lectures like these, but it shouldn't end up as just lecture, but we must put action to all of these. Therefore, I want to thank the organizers of this event and to also congratulate my brother, who is also from my state. We are proud to have you, sir, coming from Ondo State. In fact, one of the scholars of now, I could see the energy with which you were delivering and marshalling your point. It is not, even though you said it was put together, it doesn't look as it was put together by anybody. It's like it's inside of you. You were just doling them out. Thank you very much. We're very, very proud of you, and congratulations once again on this successful outing. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you, Your Excellency. Can we make that applause more rousing? And of course, we can see the timeliness, the timeousness of His Excellency. We appreciate you, sir. Of course, we want to have a very short goodwill message as well from another one of the friend, solid friend of the lecturer. But before we do that, online as well, we have a past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. As a matter of fact, he's been online for a long time. He's called me severally when we had a little glitch online. It's been there even before we began. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help me to appreciate the past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Ademola Isaac Olorunfemi, FNSC. Sir, we recognize you and we appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. Without much ado, I want to call to the microphone right away the Deputy Governor of Anambra State, Dr. Nkem Okeke, to give us a brief goodwill message on behalf. Thank you.
The chairman of this wonderful occasion, the celebrant, the wife, the MD of NDPHC, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Ordinarily, I shouldn't be here. I should still be in Anambra. We haven't concluded our elections. But I think I'm safer being in Abuja than being in Anambra right now. Of course, I'm here for my brother, my wonderful friend, Engineer Ife Oyedele. I mean, he called me a brother. He is my brother. You know, one of the things I've really achieved with this being in politics is you come across people, you come across human beings, people that think the same way you do, people that have this country at heart and want to make a difference. I'm an accidental politician. I don't think I ever thought in my wildest dream I would be a politician. But I found myself in it, and I'm trying to walk my way through it, and maybe at the end come out with my head above water, and hopefully posterity will judge me on what I've done or what I've accomplished. I don't know if I take a sample poll of you here, and I say how many of you who know me, maybe I would say less than 50%. And I would say how many of you who knew me before I defected, you might say 10%. But since I've defected, if you Google my name, Lord have mercy, what you will see, what you read about me, you will wonder, is this the same person that they're talking about? Just for the fact that I defected. I wonder what will happen to me if EFCC invites me for interrogation. They will hang me on a stake. But I thank God I'm here. I've listened to the wonderful lecture. And we have a problem in this country. We have serious problems. And I keep on wondering, when are we going to be in the right direction to make life better for our children and the next generation? Sometimes I wonder, I try to do what is right, but what is right is not what people want for some reason. I'm in my hometown. I know the job, the project I've attracted, yet my people are not happy with me because I defected. I went to another party. I asked the question, is APC only Fulanese? No. You have every tribe in APC. APC is just a party platform. We need parties to run elections to be able to serve our people. And I keep on wondering, what is wrong in joining a party? Aren't we trying to do the same thing to contribute to life, to make things better for our people? I really worry about this country, I really do. And I pray to God that someday that we'll begin to think as brothers and sisters and be able to work to make life better. I like to be a public servant. I don't believe in the private sector because I don't like the hassle. I like to sit on a desk, do my work, pay me every 2 weeks, every month, whatever you want to do, but just contribute my quota. But it's difficult. I'm sorry I'm standing here talking about this, but this is one of the forums I've had to say sometimes what's in my heart. And it's interesting. But I thank God for the opportunity that I've had, and I pray that I will continue to do my best in whatever situation I find myself. I want to thank you, my brother. You're one of a kind. I see the way you work because I know people who talk about you, the way you discharge your duties without fear or favor. You do what is right. That's what we should do as citizens of this country. Do what is right. Let posterity judge you. It shouldn't be about what part of this country you're from, what level in society you're in. Wherever you find yourself, do what is right. It doesn't take much. My father worked as an engineer, he's an electrical engineer. He worked for ECN, late ECN and NEPA, and then started a private company. And when people see me and they say, "Are you Richardson?" I say, "Yes." They nod their head and say, "Your dad was a man of honor, a man of integrity." And that's the same legacy I want to leave for my children. When people see my children, they would say, "Are you Nkemo Okeke's son or daughter?" And they say, "Yes." They would say, "Your dad was this, your dad was that." That's all I know. That's all I understand. It's not about riches. Legacy you live is in human beings. It's not in structures. It's not in building huge mansions or owning cars. It's people. What they say about you when you live. We spent so much time here, ladies and gentlemen. I thank for this opportunity for coming here. I thank the organizing people who were able to put this wonderful situation together. I pray for journey message for all of you. And please pray for me in Jesus' name. Thank you all.
It is well with you, body, soul, and spirit, sir. Did I hear somebody say amen? Thank you so very much. Let's put our hands together once again for His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Anambra State, Dr. Nkemo Okeke. And now, gentlemen and ladies, we need to understand that the lecturer is just being unambitious. It's just being very humble. It's just being very gracious. Some of us that are part of the planning committee on the side of the NIEE, we know, how much went into this. Okay, somebody has referred to it as the Bible here now. We have a very fair idea, very good idea, not even fair idea of what went into all of this. Is sleepless nights, is working on it, working it out, reworking it out, to have, a near perfect, I can call it a perfect document. So he has toiled, he has worked a whole lot on this. Of course, is being very gracious by acknowledging, which is the right thing, acknowledging the people that have, in one way or the other, been part of what he has been able to do. So we appreciate you once again, our distinguished lecturer, sir. Please, I want to appeal to every one of us. We are all very, very important personalities here. And that's why where we started, I made it clear that we should all welcome one very VVIP in our midst. And I asked us all to clap for ourselves. Of course, in an event of this nature, let me confess to you, by the NIEE standard, what has happened here today is that engineer Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele, FNSC, FNIEE, has just delivered his inaugural lecture as a professor of electrical engineering, right? Thank you. Really, that is what has just happened. And interestingly, a friend of mine just became a professor, classmate, a few months back. And from my own little experience, I've never seen a situation whereby the professor delivers the inaugural lecture and then there are questions and answers. No, it doesn't happen. This is from the repertoire, the wealth, the backlog of the experience the man has upstairs after practicing for so many years. So this was authored by him, and generally we don't take questions and answers for this event. But because he has, quite a number of his friends around there, he has graciously permitted us or, requested that we allow just a few people. Of course, time is also ticking, away. So just one more and then we close up, unless and otherwise he says so. Please, in his own immediate constituency as well, I want to welcome to the microphone. It might not be by order of protocol, but I want to welcome to the microphone the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Mr. Chiedu Ubo, for his short goodwill message. You're welcome, sir.
Your Excellencies here present, please permit me to stand on the already established protocol. So I have the microphone now. I'm a lawyer. God created everyone equal until engineers came. But we should also know that at the time of creation, Jesus Christ was there. And he is a strong advocate, a lawyer. So thank you very much. I think this has been a discussion. I won't call it an argument. I've always had with my brother, the Executive Director, Networks in NDPAC. And again, I just want you to understand, to emphasize the point and to re-echo what he says. It is nothing personal against the MD. He is my brother, we are friends. So he says his mind the way it is, and that's what you have to learn about him. In fact, in our first term, because I didn't quite understand him, and of course he didn't quite understand me, sometimes we have frictions on that. But now we understand ourselves very much. And those who know me, I call him, he's my big brother. So I call him Egbon. I say I'm MD, and he is Egbon. Incidentally, we are coming from the same constituency. I am not from Southwest, but I drank the water. I was, how do they say it? When you are born, you were washed in the Southwest. I went to school in the Southwest. And when I mentioned GCI, I think Dr. DG is here, yeah. When I mentioned the GCI old boys, you will almost think I'm from GCI myself because I've seen quite a number of them. In fact, when he came, he said, how come we have a lot of common friends and we never knew ourselves, even before we met at NDPAC? So that's on the, by the way, I think it will be very much in order for me to consider myself as the chief host of this event. Not for payment, in fact, not because of that, but because of the way the lecture was presented and the way NDPAC was showcased. So we're very grateful, very grateful for showing the world what we do at NDPAC. The whole lecture has been very illuminating and indeed insightful, going from the history of the power sector in Nigeria, which, by the way, you did a great justice to that. I must appreciate that. I was a student of history, and I can tell you that you did a great justice to that. I didn't know that engineers are historians as well. Thank you very much. And of course, the evolution of the power sector up to where we are today. We've had the sector has gone through a lot of challenges. The sector is going through a lot of challenges. And as he has said, NDPAC has come to do a whole lot of work. Were it not for NDPAC, just remove 4,000 megawatts from what you have out of the 7,600, as he said, available capacity. So you'd probably be struggling with 3,600 megawatts today. So NDPAC was a very good idea from the government. NDPAC has come to the rescue. NDPAC has done tons and tons of network projects, transmission, distribution projects. And of course, under his supervision, under his coordination as Executive Director Network, will continue to deliver on network projects in NDPAC. From 2016 to 2019, in fact, 2016 to date, NDPAC has done close to 80 transmission projects alone in this country, NDPAC alone. And we are very proud of our achievements. We'll continue to deliver on our mandate under, of course, the headship of Engineer Ifolu Oyedele as the Executive Director Network. I'm a lawyer, just coordinating the whole affairs of the company. Thank you very much for the distinguished lecture. I'm sure you've enlightened everyone here present. I want to thank the Institute, NIEE, as you fondly call yourselves. I hope to be a member someday, very, very soon. In fact, in many gatherings, they refer to me as Engineer Chidubu, and that's, but the lawyer in me would say, well, I would have loved to have that, but sometimes I think it's infra dig to call a lawyer an engineer. But I respect engineers. Without them, nothing would have, humanly been made in the... My son is studying engineering, as a matter of fact. That's the deep respect I have for engineers. Thank you for recognizing our own Engineer Ifolu Oyedele. I don't think we would have had a better distinguished lecturer than him today. On behalf of the management and staff of NDPAC, I say thank you once again. And I say congratulations to Engineer Edley for the wonderful lecture he has delivered and for enlightening us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, dear MD and CEO of Niger Delta Power Holding Company. Of course, we don't want to start a controversy. Okay, so without much ado, of course, the lecturer is gracious enough, and the powers that be have actually agreed to this. As a matter of fact, it was probably an act of oversight and omission. Please, we want to have on the podium here to give us a very brief goodwill message for the lecturer, representing the governor of the state of Osun, the chief of staff to the governor, Dr. Charles D.G. Akinola, for his goodwill message for the guest lecturer, for the distinguished lecturer. Your Excellency, sir. Please, let's put those hands together, please, please, please.
The chairman of the occasion, the representative of the governors, Anambra and Ondo, deputy governors here, the celebrant and wife, all protocols really established, highly pleased to join you at this 15th Distinguished Electrical and Electronics Engineer Lecture, which I also think it's a great privilege to be in the midst of professionals who are highly needed in the development of this nation. I'm reading this goodwill message on behalf of Governor Boyega Oyetola, who is out of the country. Just yesterday, I have sent a coordinated delegation. We have the Commissioner for Water and Energy here. The Special Advisor, Water and Energy, has been here. And our distinguished Senator, I'm not sure if it's Jide Omorare, is also here. Engineer Subera. So this is all speaking to the fact that the celebrant does occupy some space in Osun, even though it's from Ondo. A forum like this provides opportunities to learn from what has worked, what hasn't worked, when practitioners come in to share insights and experiences. And of course, for Engineer Oyedele, his 40 years of active participation in the sector is so eloquently spoken to from his lecture today. I think really his lecture has soon afforded us a lot of insights into what we need to further advance in this field. At this juncture, I wish to commend the lecturer, Engineer Oyedele, who really one will expect nothing less from a government college about an old student. He's we're very proud of him. He represents the best, the values that we are known for. And I also want to commend Engineer Ife. I think in all respects, Engineer Oyedele will be his best in his class, and that his lecture today does speak to that. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company, she will also recognize MD Chiedu. The Niger Delta Power Holding, where he's currently the Executive Director of Networks, is presently collaborating with us in Osun to restore power to the Ife South local government area of our state, which has been cut off from the national grid for over 10 years. The quick implementation of that project will undoubtedly improve the social and economic life of people in that corridor. On behalf of Osun State, Governor, and the people of Osun, I'd like to thank you, Ife, and the entire management, and MD Chiedu for the good job you're doing there. I also wish to thank the Nigerian Institute of Electrical Electronic Engineers for conferring a fellowship award on this great distinguished son of Nigeria. In conclusion, I believe that this lecture that's delivered today will further educate us on the way forward in advancing the electrification of this country in our march to becoming a great industrialized and safe nation. Again, thank you very much. We're very, very proud of you. I thank you all.
Can we put our hands together for His Excellency once again? Thank you so very much, sir. We also have in our midst, representing another minister of the Federal Republic by way of recognition, the Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, FNSC, is being very ably represented here by Mr. Oladipupo Okiyomi Karigo. Are you here, sir? Can we see you? Okay, I guess he stepped out. Yeah. So, okay, thank you. Now we want to, okay, you are very much recognized and appreciated, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir. Now we want to go to the next item of the agenda. We want to appreciate every one of us for our time Please let me make it very clear to everyone that there is provision for buffet lunch for all. It's going to go around everyone, buffet lunch. So please don't be in a hurry to step out of here. We appreciate you and your time thus far, but please don't let that provision be wasted. Thank you so very much. Now, in the tradition of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, Engineer Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele FNSC FNI AAA today just graduated to the highest level available in that professional body by being welcomed into the Hall of Fame of the NIAAA. And of course, something goes with it. Something that I don't have. I'm a past national chairman anyway, but I don't have it. And so, please permit me to call upon my powerful national chairman, the 19th national chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, Engineer Olusegun Adeyemi Kings, FNI AAA, to come and present to our distinguished lecturer, the 15th distinguished lecturer, some paraphernalia of office, to welcome him into the Hall of Fame of accomplished electrical engineers in the country. So while the national chairman is preparing to come, may I honorably, I have to speak, to him with more regard, more honor now. May I honorably plead with our distinguished lecturer to come forward here, to be decorated and to be appreciated. You are most welcome, sir. Can we put those hands together, please? Please, let's do that with all our hearts. Thank you, sir. So my national chairman, you are very much welcome, sir. Engineer Olusegun Adeyemi Kings, FNI AAA, you are very much welcome, sir.
I don't think NIAAA has made a mistake in selecting Engineer Ifeoluwa Olushola Oyedele as the 15th distinguished lecturer from what we have seen so far. So I have to do this myself. So I'll call on Engineer Dr. Esson to come and present the plaque. Is the most senior distinguished here, present physically. And incidentally, just like you have heard from the lecture of the lecturer that he also happened to be his lecturer in the university. Dr. Esson, can you kindly present this? Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The certificate.
Thank you. Please, let me make a few remarks. I'm sure that Professor Esson will not remember. But in the history of the University of Lagos, I think I was the first person to submit my, what they call project now, my thesis in my handwriting. Over 60 pages in my handwriting. And they did not discover that it was not printed. I wrote everything by hand. And so this lecture also, I wrote it by hand. When Simon read it, he said to me, "Who wrote this for you?" And I had to munch the what do they call it? The manuscript that I did in my handwriting and send it to him. And he was shocked. I wrote every line, but he did all of the research. When I say I want this research, he will get it for me. When I will say I want this information, he will get it for me. So I want to thank you again, Simon. I just needed to make that very known. You know, I'm not sure I've slept 1 hour in the last 2-3 weeks, because in the same vein, I have been delivering lectures on this, on that, and each time I deliver them, the results are beyond my expectation. That's why I broke down to cry today. It's only God can lift up a man to that level. It is not my intelligence. It is not wisdom. It is only God that can do it. And I want to give all glory, all honor, and all adoration to my Maker and my King. Always. I do not take it for granted at all. There is nothing that I have not been given by Him. And I am not a man-made man. I am a God-made man. Thank you very much.
Just hang on. Thank you, sir. I want to respectfully invite the wife of the distinguished lecturer to the podium here, Mrs. Omobolanle Oyedele. Please, madam. Sorry, we have to disturb you a little. Now, we want to do a very sharp photo session. Please, all your excellencies, please, I'm sorry to put it this way, the Deputy Governor, Anambra State, the Deputy Governor of Ondo State, the Chief of Staff, Osun State, please, can you come forward? And of course, the MDCEO of Niger, and of course, the Minister, please, can you come forward and just have a session, just very short one with the distinguished lecturer, very briefly? Thank you, sirs.
No, I just wanted to thank the Honorable Minister of Niger Delta. His daughter got married only on Saturday. And for him to be here today shows the kind of love that he has for me. I'm very grateful, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Sarukuru, yes, we are all there. Let's move back so we can all come.
Who is guiding us? Don't take a step. All right.
We should come up here.
Let's step.
Sir, distinguished lecturer, Emma Bolo.
Because of the...
Yes, because I brought the photo.
Are we coming down here?
Where's the flag? Where's the flag?
Like,
Hold on.
Gamma. They must Photoshop it.
Then what we're saying.
Okay.
To save Nigeria, all one condition, that we are ready to work together to save
Thank you. Please bring down the music. We're going to run through this with the speed of light. And I'd like to please, I just want to remind us that as soon as we are through with this aspect, The next item will be lunch after the vote of thanks. So please just kindly spare us a few more minutes of your time. Very quickly, we want to go into the award presentations. And the very first presentation, we're going to go up, in the ascending order. We're starting with the bronze category. And in the bronze category, the very first recipient will be On Point Dynamics. On Point. Please, as you hear your name, if you're representing the company, please do us the favor by having to step up to the stage so you can pick up your award. On Point Dynamic. On Point Dynamic. The chairman will please, the national chairman will please make this presentation. You can just go straight to presenting now.
Point. Thank you very much. Thank you. And this.
Yes. Thank you. Please put your hands together for On Point Dynamic. Soltech is our next recipient. Soltech. Soltech, please. As Soltech is making his way, Chris AGK International, please make your way here as well. Whilst Chris AGK is making his way, Energrod should also please make his way. Spodek Engineering will follow Energrod.
It's not yet. Next.
Okay. Soltech. Chris AGK, Energold, Spodek Engineering, Powerbird. Oh, Chris AGK is here. Please bring his award quickly. He's stepping out. Dr. Chris AGK, please. Powerbird, Income Electrics. Please, can you take down your mask just momentarily for the pictures? Just take it out completely for the time being, yes. The mask is making some of our faces lighter now. The silver category. Are we through with the bronze category? Please, can we settle down briefly, Your Excellencies? Can we settle down briefly, please, Your Excellencies? It's not difficult. Okay, we are in a function formally. The next category will be silver. We are too fast. Yes. Bring silver. We're done with bronze, silver category. We have Skipper Seal. Please, as you hear the name of your company, please step forward and receive your award. Skipper Skill. Power Control Appliances. Okay, Power Control is here. Renax Engineering. Power Control is coming. Renax Engineering. What Deco Engineering? Is that Renax? Okay, please come forward, please. What Deco after Renax is here? What Deco Engineering? What Deco? Is What Deco here? Please just indicate, let's know you're the one coming. What Deco? Harvest Wealth. Are you What Deco? Harvest Wealth. If they are here, please just come out. Time is of the essence, I beg of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you Harvest? Harvest Wealth. And that's the last recipient from in the silver category. Gold category. AAKS and Bros Ventures. AAKS and Bros Ventures. Do we have anybody from AAKS and Bros Ventures? Please, if you are here, can you just do us the honor of coming out quickly, please? AAK? I don't know. You just need to wave so we know you're the one coming. Come. Skipper Seal. Please come forward. You are the first name we called. Skipper Seal from silver category. Skipper Seal. Silver. Skipper Seal. AAKS and Bros Ventures. Do we have anyone here? Valens Holdings. Valens Holdings. Your Excellency, the Deputy Governors and our Honorable Minister of State Niger Delta Affairs would like to plead with you. Valens. Are you for Valens or AAKS? Valens. Okay, Valens Holdings. That is in a gold category.
Thank you so much, sir.
Diamond category. Saloguru Engineering. For diamond category, Saloguru Engineering. Please, if you are representing Saloguru, can you come forward, please? Saloguru, is there anybody representing Saloguru, sir? Saloguru, diamond. MD Saloguru Engineering. Please, a round of applause for them. Diamond Award.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir.
Saloguru.
Thank you so much.
Kasasha, oh, okay, it's hung up. The very last in the diamond category for the awards, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Nigeria. Please put your hands together for the MD CEO, Joseph Chibu Esquire. Niger Delta Power Holding Company. I can't hear that applause for the MD CEO as he steps forward. Please put your hands together for the next fellow of NIEE in the person of the MD CEO of Niger Delta Power Holding Company. Cameraman, where are you? Thank you.
What a BJ. We are not feeling you. No?
We don't have. We don't have. Okay, fine. That's okay. Yes, understood. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. Okay, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company team, they want to receive the award in grand style. I think I can understand that. I feel you. While we are preparing to do that, please, may I request the honor of the presence of a member of the Deal 2021 Planning Committee, 15th Deal. I would like him to come forward to give us the vote of thanks or the appreciation, while another member of the planning team from the other side will please get ready. Somebody from the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, get ready to give us another, category of vote of thanks. Engineer Ngama, I think are we ready? Now you don't see her now. At least you don't see her now. Let me see whether they will announce me.
All non-staff of any case, show your ID card. John White, come now.
Sorry. No, we're reading. They have sent somebody from us, somebody
Which way we go to make Nigeria
So, distinguished gentlemen and ladies, while we're prepared to round off finally and go for our lunch, please, I need to intimate us that the lunch, of course, is buffet, but it's also strictly by admittance, by invitation, just like the program itself. So you are supposed to go there with a card that will admit you. So please ensure you have your card before you go there. So with this, I have the honor to call upon a past national chairman of the NIEE, of course, a very strong member of DEAL 2021 Planning Committee, to give the vote of thanks. Please help me put your hands together for Engineer Olafemi Ikwaibom Olaneya, FNSE, FNIEE, to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the NIEE.
If you don't clap for me, I will clap for myself. I stand on all protocols, appreciation found on page 35 of the program. The organizing committee of the 15th Distinguished Electrical and Electronics Engineer Annual Lecture Deal, on behalf of the national chairman, the executive committee, and the entire membership of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, NIEE, hereby express our sincere gratitude to you all who have attended this lecture in person or joined remotely on our various online platforms. Our special thanks go to the President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Baba Gana Mohammed FNSE, the special guest of honor, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, and our special guests on the high table who have honored us with their presence. To our noteworthy sponsors, we say thank you for your kind and generous support. This event could never have been possible without you. And for keeping faith with the ideals of the founding fathers of our noble profession, we wish to express our appreciation to the entire engineering family. Your presence and support for today's event is greatly appreciated. We wish you all safe journey to your various destinations. 16 deal, here we come. Thank you very much.
Please, can we put our hands together for that? That's my past national chairman, please. Okay, I will clap for him. Thank you. Now, before we close, we want to do the second batch the second side of the vote of thanks. And of course, to give us that appreciation is a member of the planning team that we have worked tirelessly together. Please join me to welcome to the podium to give vote of thanks on the side of the lecturer, Ms. Olive Uzonna Okonkwo. Please let's put our hands together for her. At least may I clap for you. Don't mind them.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, most valued guests, ladies and gentlemen, kindly permit me to stand on existing protocols. It's a privilege to stand before you today to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the distinguished lecturer. We say thank you for gracing the 15th Deal Lecture 2021 with your presence and honoring the distinguished lecturer, Engineer Ifeoluwa Oyedele, FNSE, FNI, EE. Hearty thanks to the special guest of honor, chief host, your excellencies, and all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are grateful to you all. As we all know, an event like this does not happen overnight. The wheels started rolling months ago. It required planning and a bird's eye to details. We were fortunate enough to have a planning committee of very motivated and dedicated colleagues who knew their job and were result-oriented. Immense thanks to the chairman of the planning committee, Engineer Gajama, Dr. Yari, Engineer Ngama, and the entire NIEE committee for their support, guidance, and enormous contribution in the organization of the event. Again, we thank you all for being with us. This event will not be a success without you all. We bid you safe journey to your respective destinations. Again, thank you, God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this brings us to the very end of this occasion. Would like to please, may I kindly crave on your indulgence for all of us to please rise for the closing prayer. Second stanza of a national anthem as enshrined on the second page of your program brochure. If you have it, can we recite it together after the count of 2? Please, we are in prayers. Can we have your attention, please?
Just give me a copy. I'll give it back to you.
Page number 2, and we are in prayers. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Amen and amen. Please, the national anthem, as we bring this to a close. On behalf of my colleague, who has been a member of the organizing committee for this very important event, and the chairman planning committee and the rest of the members of the planning committee, I am Andy Gabriel, wishing you a very lovely day ahead. Can we have the national anthem, please? Please remember to carry your valuables with you. Lunch is served at the gallery upstairs, but as you've already been told, without your meal ticket, you won't have access to the buffet. Enjoy your meals and bon appetit. Thank you very much.
I've not forgotten it, don't worry. So, distinguished gentlemen and ladies, we want to say a very big thank you to everyone that have been part of this program from the beginning to the very end. We particularly appreciate your patience. I mean, on a Monday, we don't take that for granted. And we say a very, very big thank you to every one of us. We can only but pray that God will keep and preserve every one of us. And I wish you success in all of your endeavors. Once again, on behalf of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, NIEE, and of course on behalf of the 15th Distinguished Lecturer of the NIEE, we want to say we appreciate you. Thank you so very much, and God bless you all.